welcome to another episode of the Cheer Guys, brought to you by Cheer and Dance Battles. My name is Chase Brett, and we are here to talk about everything cheer. And I'm here with my co-host, partner in crime, not only in podcast, but in life, Mr. Daniel Satterfield.
That's right. Thanks, Chase. Chase, glad to be here for another episode. We're here to talk about the sport of cheer. That's right, the sport. That's what it is. That's why we're here. We talk about everything from the training, the competition, what it's like on every level from high school, college, and all-star. Very awesome guest, someone who I have known for over 20 years, have had a close cheer relationship with for a very long time, and a very good friend of mine who is at James Madison University. We're welcoming Mr. Tony Morris. How are you, Tony?
Doing great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we are wanting to dive right into just getting to know a little bit about you, and in the intro here, I know a lot about your background, but I don't want to do any spoilers because a lot of our questions are going to bring that up. But head coach at James Madison University, have been involved in a lucrative cheer career in coaching, I know, for a long time, but. Just to kind of, let Chase and some of the others that don't know you as well kind of get to know you. Tell us a little bit about your cheer background. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you came from and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. Grew up in northern Indiana. Notre Dame was my backyard growing up. I started, I guess, my cheer career my senior year of high school. I started as mascot, and one day in practice, I got to throw my first girl in the air and thought that was pretty cool.
Right.
Ended up going to college right there in Indiana, Bethel College in Mishawaka, Indiana, Bethel University now.
That's right.
And cheered all my collegiate years there. A small NAIA school, but back in the day, we didn't have the NAIA competitive cheer. And so we actually competed as a Division II school.
Nice, that's right.
And we had, one of the strongest programs back then. We actually finished top 10 every year that we competed as an NAIA school in the Division II spots at nationals.
There you go. Yeah, that's a lot. That's back then it was a very different world because the divisions weren't the same as they are now. So there was no kind of defined size of school or anything. It was just, this is what you were.
And that's what we'll be touching on later too, is that, back then type of mindset in our full out. I can't wait to do that because that's a fun one for everybody versus now. But yeah, I mean, that's so when you did your cheering there, did you also work any camps or do anything throughout that time?
So I started coaching my junior year of college at one of the local high schools, South Bend John Adams High. Go Eagles.
All right.
From there, I worked with the Fellowship of Christian Cheerleaders, so FCC. Did that for 9 summers. Almost had my tenure with them.
Right.
Graduated college and moved down to Georgia. Worked and coached at Perry High School for 6 years. Had a great experience there. Coached at Fort Valley State University in Fort Valley, Georgia for 2 years as well.
All right.
And from Georgia, moved out to Kansas. Coached and taught at Tabor College in Hillsboro, Kansas. From Kansas, moved to Iowa, where I was spirit coordinator and started the program at Upper Iowa University, which is the new school in the state. And I was also a volunteer assistant with the University of Iowa Spirit Squads. Greg Nemec there, had the only person in Iowa that I knew. So the spirit coordinator there at University of Iowa. So had a great learning experience being with Greg and working with him for him, and then moved out to the beautiful Shenandoah Valley here in Harrisonburg, Virginia, with James Madison University. So that's kind of the quick around.
There you go. That's awesome, man. So, I mean, as a coach, you know, we all coach, me and Daniel coach. You feel like there's always that one person or maybe two, maybe even three that influenced you, maybe from a young age or even after you got a little older, that really inspired you, maybe your mentor, your hero, to be those coaches, the coach that you are now. Is there somebody like just off the top of your head that you would be like, this person is the reason right here?
Oh, definitely. My college coaches, Rod and Dana Baker.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Husband and wife team, and just not just them as coaches, but as a couple, as husband and wife, and how they interacted together, how they interacted with their athletes. I saw, they genuinely cared. They loved the sport, but they genuinely cared about us as individuals, not just as performers or athletes also. And I identified with that. And a lot of my coaching style and coaching personality came from those two for sure.
See, with that kind of influence, I think that it's just to kind of interject on when we talk about mentors, when you're a college coach or in coaching in general, there's a couple things. I mean, you're responsible for the coaching of the sport, the skill level, the training. But when you get to like high school and college, there's a mentorship and type of role that you take in the athletes' lives that really comes from putting yourself in a position of respect by being good in those other areas. If you're really good at coaching and you're really good at teaching the skills, then they're going to look up to you and look to that. And it's cool to look back at the people that influenced us that way, and do that. Which, by the way, just to kind of throw out there, Tony would, if I had to pick three, Tony's in my list of three who influenced me out there. So I just want to throw out, it's kind of cool to listen to you here talk about that, because I include you in my top three with that, knowing like where you came from and stuff as well.
Well, I love the fact that you, really identified more with their character within their ability to actually coach cheerleading. You really were more impressed by, who they were instead of what they knew. And so I love that. I think that's really big. And so when you pile up all these years and all these experiences, what would you say if you had to pinpoint one of your moments throughout cheerleading, throughout your career? If you said, this is my claim to fame, this was the moment when I kind of knew I had arrived into a really good spot. Maybe I was in my prime, however you want to consider it. Do you have a moment like that in mind?
I still remember vividly my very last, time in uniform. We were out in Nampa, Idaho, cheering on our men's basketball team for the national championship game. And just looking around at the crowd. The game went into overtime, and we actually lost a tough one in overtime. And looking at the faces of just the people that traveled all the way from Indiana to Idaho to watch this game and be a part of the experience. And just, everything hit me all at once, just very overwhelming that, this is the end, this is it. It was such a great collegiate career that I had. I think we had 3 or 4 championships within the years that I cheered at Bethel College. I know nationally we were the winningest collegiate men's basket program in the 90s. Kind of aging myself there. But it was just such a good time. And then going on to, coaching, moving from the athlete position into the coaching role and having championship teams, championship programs. Kind of like you mentioned before, Chase, my coaches, the character is what stood out to me from them and the lessons that I took from them. And that's what I've tried to instill in the athletes and all the different levels that I've coached.
That's cool, man.
When cheer is all said and done, what are you going to take away from me? What are you going to take from these experiences? What are you going to take away from these moments that you can apply into your life, into your lives. I've had some awesome teams, awesome programs, and we've done some big things, some historic things. And the things I remember the most are those relationships that you build with the athletes, and having relationships with them even now, years and years and years after coaching is done.
Right.
Agreed. Very much so, 1000%. Well, when you look at it through, what you've seen as far as all levels of cheer, and you have the obvious things we're going through right now with the pandemic, how it's changed things for you as coaches and different things like that. And obviously for the athletes, what would you say, just if you had a quick moment to talk to all of those high school juniors out there, high school seniors out there that are looking now into this new way of virtually getting exposed to the different universities, what would you say to help prepare them and get them, heading in the right direction?
Definitely reach out to coaches in programs that you're interested in. Don't have mom or dad do it. You do it.
That's a good one right there. No, that was a great piece of advice right there.
Yeah, that's one that I think a lot of kids that they don't know how to put themselves out there anymore. So they have mom and dad do it for them, and not realizing that can even sometimes be a detriment.
No, that was a great little plug right there. It speaks a lot of independence, responsibility to the coach when you can reach out yourself and initiate those types of conversations. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, they get so infatuated with the fact is I have to have this skill or I have to know somebody to make the team. And so they don't even look into it. And the fact is they don't really know that may not be the case.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Reach out, touch base, follow social media, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's kind of all of our talking points. If you got something to add, Tony, go ahead.
Oh yeah. The other thing I tell athletes, don't pick a school based off of cheer. Pick a school based on what you want to study, what you want to do with the rest of your life.
Makes sense. It does. That makes
sense.
Sense.
Well, and that's the industry and atmosphere of cheerleading right now is one where, and this is one we can definitely talk about because this is part of what the show's about is, college cheer is the end all be all of what you do. I mean, if you're willing and have the money to put money into continuing after college to be a part of an all-star program that has a level 6 or level 17, and you're not in college anymore, like, okay, you can still stay involved in that level of it. But I would venture to say more than 96, 97% of all cheerleaders in this sport, all athletes, are going to go on to another career out after college. And if you spent, unless you're planning on staying in cheerleading as a coach or something else, there's going to be something else that you become a part of. There's going to be another set of skills, another skill set that you hone and you go be a part of. And then cheer becomes a memory. So, a good memory, hopefully, that you can be a part of. So having both mentors and people who prepare you for that in college so that your experience is really good, but then you move on prepared for another part of your life. That's a huge part of, I think, what we do as coaches is help and assist in that process.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, T, what we're going to do now is go ahead and go into our full out section of the show where we kind of throw down a little bit. I know, like, let's go. We're gonna get like not intense, but we want to kind of keep it intense. So we are being timed for 2 minutes and 30 seconds on these. I'm gonna pull my timer up, get us ready to roll. And what we're doing during this segment, and this is a little bit more for our viewers, so we're gonna go
full out. During this portion of the show, we're going to bring up some hot topics in the industry. We're going to give our interviewee 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go full out and tell us everything that they can tell us about that particular topic and what's going on. So let's go full out.
All right, here we go. All right, so first topic. We come a little bit from the old school. We're going to talk in this first part, old school versus new school. If back in the day, we had a lot of cheerleaders who had to pave the road. There's a lot of skills being thrown these days by athletes. You know, the pull up rewind on the sideline is the toss live of the 90s. And the front handspring double ups are the, you know, toss QPs of the, you know, UCA routines now. And so, you know, old school versus new school, is it harder now with the extreme level of difficulty and all of these stunts and all these things that you see these athletes across the country doing? Or was it harder as a whole for the old school, for the girls and the guys that paved that way to get to where we are now as far as the training, the skill level, and what it's become? Tell us your thoughts. Go full out.
In my opinion, I would say old school for sure. You know, we focused a lot on technique and
Yep.
getting it, not just doing it. Even with my program here, because of pandemic, we lost basically a year and a half of practices of doing skills. And so we've gone back into training literally from the basics, starting everything from the ground floor, rebuilding skills, retraining skills, relearning skills, so that when you do get into those harder tumbling into skills now that are done, you have that technique behind you, and you have that technique when strength leaves you.
Yep. You have, and the thing about doing the training that way, like old school, you had this, like, I think about how social media has brought up just the exposure that everybody has now as athletes throughout, you know, All-Stars college, everything else. And just to kind of like keep that part of it rolling, you know, back then we didn't have other people's videos to watch. We essentially had what we went to competition and saw. And since you didn't compete very often, you didn't, or camp. So you didn't have that other, you know, that other person that pushed you and you said, man, I see that. And I think I think this is a fair point that I know we haven't brought this up on the show yet, and I think you'll agree with this. There's a difference in the mentality, I think, of athletes now, even on high school and college, where now they see another athlete that's really good, that's a cheerleader or high school level, and they say, man, they're really awesome. I want to be like them. Whereas I feel like back in the day, like, you know, old school, 20 plus years ago, 15, 20 plus years ago, when we saw someone who was really good, we not only said we're going to be like them, we're going to be better than them. It was like a baseline. We said, I'm going to be able to do that skill and do it better than they can do it, and I'm going to keep going. So there was this almost pioneering, go the next step down the trail to pioneer the sport kind of mentality.
Yeah, I totally agree. The old school, we didn't have the same ability to train and all the techniques and all the different ways to train your body and to teach is now so available, and it's so accessible to these new athletes. Where back in the day, I feel like we were just coming up with it on the fly, making it work. Full to the left. Nope, let's full it this way. That makes more sense.
Yeah. And we actually listened to our coaches.
Right.
We actually trusted that our coaches knew what they were doing.
Right. We trusted them.
Even if they didn't, we still trusted that they knew what they were doing.
That's right.
Going on to another topic, recruiting. Has it gotten at post-pandemic with social media the way it is and the way you've had to recruit? Kind of two parts of this one. Has it gotten easier? Has it gotten harder? What's your system of doing it? And what are you looking for? Are you looking for more your high school athletes? Are you looking for all-stars? Are you looking for specific skills? Tell us about your methodology for recruiting.
So on the recruiting end, specifically here at JMU, I am looking at positions. So this last 2 years of tryouts had to be virtual because of the pandemic. Right. And, you know, you couldn't see a person to figure out how they're going to physically fit with what you're doing and what you're building. And you just have to do a good judgment call and hope that they're being honest in their videos.
Right. Hope for the
But
best.
we're to hope the best, yeah. But we're to a point, this is my third year here at JMU, and we're to a point now where we can recruit specifically to positions.
Yeah.
We're going through the tryout process, looking specifically at positions that we need filled. And so that's been very different here. A lot of the other coaches, they see me going out to recruiting events. I'll be in the airport with another coach flying to one location while they're flying to another location. And we talk about recruiting. It's been fun getting to do this, getting to expose different athletes, to the thought of coming out to Virginia, into the mountains of Virginia, to a school that they've never heard of, or a school that they have heard of, and it's been on their radar, but they just haven't made the time, to look deeper into it.
Yeah.
And finding the guys, the recruiting piece right now is big, definitely, for finding, hopefully, guys that already have a cheer background, that can stunt on their own. If they can stunt and tumble, that's just a plus.
So do you go after like your junior colleges, your community colleges locally or around there that already have decent cheer teams, and maybe go and see if you can maybe pull some of those? Is that ever a part of your strategy?
Kind of. Thankfully, there have been some cheer combines that have popped up within this last year. They've been going on for a little while, but they're more recognizable now. So I've been able to go to the Infinity cheer combines. I've been able to do the cheer combines, and athletes are coming from all over the country, all over the world to these different events.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
You're actually able to talk to people that want to leave their states, that they want to be able to go to a different state for their education and for a cheer experience. And so that's been a huge, huge puzzle piece that has helped a lot as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. No, we get another deduction on that one. Went a little bit over. That's all right. We're getting good info on it. Moving on. Let's hit one more. What are your thoughts? Your specific pieces of the pie or the puzzle on cheer being announced as an Olympic sport? Coming out in July 20th, it was announced that, the International Olympic Committee is recognizing cheerleading as an Olympic sport. And we have yet to see what that format's going to look like and kind of what that's going to lead to. But what do you foresee how that will have an impact on college cheerleading as a whole, and on your program specifically, and how you may adjust or change if needed to that? Go full out. What's your thoughts?
I'll try to go quicker. Once it's set and more established with the Olympics, then especially the larger colleges are going to take notice and transition their programs from club teams or under marketing, if they're actually cheering, for the athletic programs. And I think they will transition it into a sport at these universities. There are some schools, thankfully here at JMU, our cheer program is a recognized varsity sport. And
very cool.
That's very cool. That's becoming
ahead of the
more
game.
common.
Ahead of the game.
Yeah. We're fully under athletics. And so they're recognized as student athletes, and they have all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities as all the other athletes do as well.
Right.
And so, especially with the Olympics, accepting cheer, it's to be a game changer, and it's going to make, a lot of people have to stand up and have to pay attention to how they're treating their programs, how they're treating their coaches of these programs as well.
Amen.
Absolutely. All right, here we're going to consider that just the stunt section. We went full out with the stunt section. We did that. That was good. On that one, I want to let that one kind of fade into one more that we're going to go in with it. You we're talking about the recruiting earlier and finding guys, having a co-ed team with guys obviously is different than having an all-girl team. But with all of the divisions that are out there, I want to be careful because not division like split apart of everyone, but division specifically in cheer. When because there's a lot of division in different styles of cheer, different ways of competing, all this stuff. But just in the different divisions of collegiate cheer, how do you train your guys? How do you train your girls? How do you get the periodization, the timeline of creating the team that is the most ready to go and compete and be ready to rock and roll when it's time to go to nationals or to go to a game? Like, what's your formula for that? How do you set that up so that you can be more successful?
As a coach, you have to recognize and be realistic with what you have.
Yeah.
Especially, we all know the majority of guys that cheer in college have never done anything remotely like this before. And the ones that have are very few and very rare.
Yeah.
So when you're training a brand new team, number one, you have to teach guys how to count.
Right.
You wouldn't think that would be an issue, but it is because of the different elements.
And they have to remember what to do on those counts. So I've always been from the mindset of, if you can get your game day to a place where it's looking phenomenal, the competitive side is going to fall into place.
Yep.
Where a lot of coaches and programs are getting into trouble is they're so focused on competing that they're missing, especially with new people, training and teaching those basic skills, those safety things, because they want the harder things to be a competitive program.
Well, and we're old enough to remember taping, and remember taping used to do a lot for teams because it would force you, we're going to do this full up lib 1,000 times because you moved your left foot an inch. And so we're doing it again, or we're going to do these tucks 100 times because that little girl in the back took a little step right there at the end before we stood up. And that's what made the teams good, was learning how to push through, count, do it 1,000 times before you get it right.
Right.
And that's gone. So those formulas like that, make sure you're realistic, train the little things, make sure your sideline looks phenomenal. You said the word phenomenal. Like, if they can do it perfect, then they're going to transfer that over into their competition mindset.
That's right.
Yeah. And tagging that onto that, I remember good old Tootsie at Mississippi College. She would come to us right after camp. I'll never forget her coming to us and saying, all right, here's when nationals is, here's when taping is. In order for us to be successful at everything that we are going to do at nationals, every skill in this routine must be thrown a minimum of 1,000 times. So you have between now and then to throw this skill 1,000 times. And there would be some of us back then that would start taking a tally, like every practice. So I did it 15 times this practice. I did it 30 times this practice. We did it 28 times this practice, and would count till they got to that. And I mean, sure enough, some of them would start getting to like that 1,000 mark and it'd be almost perfect and flawless. And, it was kind of like, oh, she was right. But that falls in line with what you're talking about. Just having that mentality where you prep the kids.
Imagine telling a kid or an athlete these days they had to do something 1,000 times before they could put it on Instagram. They'd be like, what? just hit it for the first time 2 seconds ago. I'm about to put it on Instagram right now.
Right.
Well, and
a few seconds ago is how long they actually held it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
But
that goes into a whole other aspect of training athletes these days, because there's the social media, smartphone, instant, I want it now mentality of, if I can't get it in 2 clicks, then I don't want it. So if it's a skill that's too hard for me to get in the first couple of weeks or first month that I'm attempting it, then I'm either going to go learn a new skill or try something different because this is too hard and I don't want to put the time and energy into it. That's something that I've seen a little bit more the last couple of years of coaching that's just become repetitive in our sport, where you just, and that falls in line with properly training parents, properly training the athletes, and having that positive mentality where you make it more as much about the mentorship as you do about training. Because if they respect you in the mentorship, they'll do the training.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it too. So that kind of falls in line with it. But we'll tell you that's the end of our full out segment. That was all of the pieces, man. We only had a couple of deductions, so not too many points that we took off. But yeah, that's thanks for going through that with us. And T, we've enjoyed having you answer questions. Tell us a little bit about James Madison University. Tell us a little bit about how anyone who wants to participate in your program or contact you, how can they get in touch with you so that they can learn more about what you're doing there at JMU?
You can definitely follow us on all the socials at JMU Cheerleading.
Okay.
You can find us on our athletic website, jmusports.com. If you're in the area, come out to a game, come out for a campus tour. We can
Awesome.
actually where you can meet with the coaching staff, where you can actually watch a practice. We're getting ready to move into basketball season. That transition, the overlap, as I call it, with football, volleyball, minimum men's basketball. We've got some awesome games that are happening this year with Virginia men and women's teams coming to Harrisonburg to play here.
Awesome.
Come out for a game experience and actually see what we do on game days.
Very
Absolutely.
cool. And we'll try to run all that on the bottom of the screen here for you guys to be able to see and find out what you need for him. Tony, such an honor to meet you. I love your mentality. I wish you all the luck in the world with your program going forward, man.
Thanks, Chase. Appreciate it.